spent some time on your website because your background, good heavens, I mean, you've been at this for how long?
I think this is my 40th year.
40 years. Because, you know, I looked at the influences that you're identifying as having been influential on your entry. I don't know how you got started as a musician.
I don't either. It was kind of something I fell into. When I was in high school, in junior high school, chorus was, in 7th and 8th grade, was required course, and I loved it. I loved singing in the mixed chorus. And then from the 9th, 10th, and 11th grade and 12th grade, I was in a barbershop quartet. So I really took to singing, and I took as many singing classes as were offered. Madrigals, a cappella choir, barbershop quartet, boys chorus, and the church choir.
So when did you pick up the flute?
When I got to college, I graduated from high school in 1970. Somewhere within the next year and a half, I started missing music a lot. So I bought an auto harp, and we got kind of a little band going in my apartment building, which had a little basement apartment that opened up to a fire station across the street. And people would come over and we'd beat on drums and make up songs and sing songs. And poor guy upstairs was a viola player with the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra. One time his wife, it was like late at night, she called, "I hate to complain about music because my husband's, but he's got to be at rehearsal early morning tomorrow. Could you guys lay off?" And I met a lot of people that played, and one of them was a guy who was working on an open heart surgery team as a kind of aide or assistant. I don't know what his position was, but he brought a soprano recorder to my house, and he had to deal with some stuff, so he didn't come around for a long time. And over that winter, I picked up the soprano recorder.
You picked it up and just taught yourself how to play it?
Pretty much. I mean, I met other people, and
yeah.
Eventually I also played the oboe, and wind instruments were my domain because it's like singing, breathing, you know, the breathing technique and stuff. And I tend to think in phrases like a singer,
okay.
So it's a good instrument to have.
All right, so you've distinguished yourself. I mean, there are loads of people who, the word genius gets used in regard to you from the people I've talked to. I mean, Jim Hancock and all of the people in circa paleo that I've met over the last couple of years.
They all grew up listening to us.
Yeah, it's Barbie Holder. It's just, you're really an amazing figure because you started with the Renaissance Faire concept. How many years ago?
1978.
Okay, so in 78 you were in, and I noticed on your website that prior to Owen Fife's influence, things were more stilted, much smaller, a lot of bawdy drinking songs, and not much of a flair for the Renaissance period itself. And you were at the very cusp of the transformation into a more, how would you describe it?
There wasn't a lot of Renaissance music doing well at the Renaissance fairs. They tended to be academic types who were, you know, perfectly fine, but they'd sit around a table and they weren't really reaching out very much. And people didn't show a lot of interest because they tended to play the song, 2-3 times through, exactly the same thing every time. And what we did was we learned the tune and put a chord progression to it that we derived from the parts, individual parts, and then improvised.
Okay, so that's now the standard, where it's a very informal, you know, you stick to the song, it's recognizable, but there's always some improvisational joy going along with it. It's part of what makes it so entertaining. I come to the fair and travel to the extent I can to other fairs, and each one has its own kind of little flavor. Some of them are more oriented toward theatrics and a kind of a show, a theatrical presentation.
Yeah.
Others are more oriented toward music. Some are definitely keyed toward food and, you know, crowd entertainment kinds of stuff. And I'm just amazed at the diversity of them. Some of them, like Pennsylvania, it's paved and it's, you know, well organized and neat. Tampa is basically a tent city that goes up overnight. And I guess the other ones fall somewhere along that continuum.
Each one has its own personality.
Yeah, and the management has their own preferences, and some players go really well in some places and are perennially invited back. It's kind of like you're part of that fair. And then the circuit actually goes all over the U.S. It starts down in the South, I guess, in Texas.
Well, it kind of ends there. Although, you know, when I first started out, there wasn't exactly a circuit of musicians. There were a few variety people, mostly from the West Coast, who traveled, but mostly it was local people that were the musicians, and usually people from like folk traditions.
Okay, so each fair kind of had its own little group of people who would play at that fair.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a traveling band except for a couple of people starting on the West Coast.
Starting there, and well, musicians, no, it was variety performers like Johnny Fox, the sword swallower, Cliff Spanger, a rope walker, and various other people that had noticed that they were opening up festivals here and there. And there were a few people that started in the California shows, which started in the 60s.
Okay, right. I remember reading about that. That was the start of the Renaissance Faire movement in the 60s in California. So as the fairs sprung up in various places, you guys as musicians heard about them and put in bids and got gigs at each of those different places?
Or just showed up.
Or you just
it was very informal back then.
Okay.
The biggest fair in the country now is probably the Texas Renaissance Festival.
I've looked at that. That covers, what, 100 acres?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's just gargantuan.
It's not unusual to get over 40,000 people in one day.
In the day?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So the traffic's kind of challenging. And they have also kind of a tendency, starting there, is they have a campground, which is open to the public. And no campground open to the Renaissance Fair people, but the owner of that fair bought some land behind the festival, and a lot of people own their own land and help finance it through renting to other participants.
Okay, so that's part of the culture that now exists with the Renaissance players.
Yeah.
That they'll have a piece of land where they have a home base, like yours is in Plantersville,
yeah,
Texas,
yeah,
which is right near the Texas Renaissance Festival.
Yeah, I'm a little over, a little under 5 miles by road.
Okay.
But less, we can hear the fireworks at night from our land, so less if it's as the crow flies, you know.
So you guys set up touring minstrel groups, and informally and accidentally, and it just sort of all came together.
When I first started doing fairs, there were very few schedules. Everybody just kind of picked a spot and set up, and we'd have morning meetings and kind of mark off our turf, you know. Maybe the rope walker says, I'm going to do a show at such and such a time, and so I appreciate it if nobody would impinge on that. You know?
Okay, that sure is, because as we've seen at different fairs, sometimes you guys are playing beautiful music and it's so soft and lilting, and you got some character over here banging on a drum that drowns everything out.
Well, we work these things out.
Yeah, that's it. But
But this fair and most fairs nowadays are totally scheduled.
Right. They have an actual program, and things are booked, and they try to not have competing acts right on top of each other.
They've kind of evolved and taken in more variety. None of us had a clue that 40 years or however many years later that they would still exist. They've outlived the entire length of vaudeville, which was one of its influences.
Yeah, I remembered some time ago you had said that this is the new vaudeville, and it's got a much longer run than vaudeville ever had. And you're one of the preeminent people in the whole movement. I think you and Doug Panjoka, he plays Miguel.
Yeah.
The amount of creativity that I'm seeing in the Renaissance Fair performers and the artisans that manufacture their own things, the iron forge people and whatnot, the amount of talent in the group is just startling.
Yeah, it is. And that's why so many of us are here, because we've been given encouragement by our peers, you know. You get a bunch of people, creative people together, they're going to find things to do.
That's perfect. They're creative, and you guys are entrepreneurs too. That's the other draw that for me, I've tried to set up my own business, and I know how hard it is to actually make a go of it, you know, with competition and, you know, other demands on your time. You're not sure if it's going to be successful, if it's the right way or best way to use your time. But you guys have dedicated your lives to this, and, you know, your performances are wonderful. You know, in more often, much more often than not, they're impeccable as far as I can tell.
Well, they're slightly impeccable.
Well, that's the point. I didn't want to say you're
informal.
Yeah, but reliable, consistent. I watch Jim play the guitar, and he's picking out stuff that's just, it's as if it's coming through his body, not just his fingers.
Yeah.
I watch you play, and even with the Parkinson's symptoms that you're challenged by, your playing is spot on. Occasionally, you made the comment a couple of years ago about the illegal tritone chord, and you and Jim batted back and forth right at the end of the pump shanty.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, Bob wants to get to work now. Many kinds of work aboard the ship, but the most tough and backbreakingest work of all is manning the pumps. Every kind of work has their shanty. This one is called the pump shanty. They say life has its ups and downs. I really find that quite profound. I'd like to turn the captain round, but it's pump me boys before we drown. Pump me boys, pump her dry, down to hell and up to the sky. Bend your back and break your bones. We're just 1,000 miles from home. The ocean we all do adore, so come on lads, let's pump some more. Don't worry if you're stiff and sore, I'm sure we've pumped this bit before. Pump the boys, pump her dry, down to hell and up to the sky. Bend your back, break your bones, we're just 1,000 miles from home. The captain's daughter, I suppose, could be called an English rose. But what do you think when I proposed? The box to me, she gave a dose. Pump me boys, pump her dry, down to hell and up to the sky. Bend your back, break your bones, we're just 1,000 miles from home. Went to the doctor right away to find out what he had to say. There's 2 pounds dead, get on your way. I think the girl is in his pay. Pump me boys, pump her dry, down to hell, up to the sky. Bend your back, break your bones, we're just 1,000 miles from home. Get to work there, Bob. I wish that I could die. The man who built this tub to find, I drag him back from where he fries to pump until the beggar's dry. Pump me boys, pump her dry, down to hell, up to the sky. Bend your back and break your bones, we're just 1,000 miles from home. If Noah used him for his ark, now wouldn't that have been a lark? From rising sun till setting dark, the animals all hard at work singing, pump me boys, pump her dry, down to hell, up to the sky. Bend your back, break your bones, we're just 1,000 miles from home. There's so much water down below, how How it got there, I don't know. The old man says let's roll and go, but I think we're bound for Davy Jones. Come, me boys, come and ride down the hill, up to the sky, bend your back, break your bones, we're just 1,000 miles. Come, me boys, come and ride down the hill, up to the sky, bend your back, break your bones, we're just 1,000 miles from home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Will no doubt be put to death later for that last note.
Oh, probably, yes.
It was the illegal tritone chord.
Yeah. That's why I laughed evilly during it.
And it's one of my favorite recordings, and to capture that ambience and, you know, just the live feel of two really, really skilled players who would go back. How long have you been playing with Jim?
Informally since 1986.
Okay.
That's when he first showed up at a Renaissance Fair. He was with a troupe that he'd been doing performances with. I think they were in some movie. He would sit on a bed of nails, and he was from Texas, and our fiddle player Malcolm knew him from the Kerrville Folk Festival, which is something you owe to yourself to see at least once someday.
The Kerrville Folk Festival.
Yeah.
Where is that?
It's in Kerrville, Texas, which is the hill country. It's in, I guess it's in June or maybe late May. It's several weeks long. People, singer-songwriters from all over the place show up. I mean,
oh boy.
one of my favorites, David Amram, is actually he's the resident conductor, if he still is, with the Philadelphia Philharmonic.
Wow.
And he was a very close friend of Jack Kerouac. So he has songs about Kerouac, and he's like a kind of a shaman of music. I've never been able to stop tearing up when I sit and listen to him play, because it's just so right on.
What does he play?
Just about everything.
Oh boy.
Probably his main instrument was the French horn. But he wrote a suite. We had the same birthday, not the same year, but he wrote a suite to the Red River Valley, that song that he plays on penny whistle. He'll sometimes play 2 or 3 penny whistles at once, tuck one into his belt, a long one, and he's endlessly creative and also kind of informal. And with him, music is all about the spirit, you know, the spirit of the music.
Well, that's the thing that captured me when I first heard you and Jim play. It's joy. You're just experiencing joy and camaraderie, appreciation. You're in your element. And you come and you play every weekend. What do you do during the week, in between Saturday and Sunday?
Shop. Laundry is a big event, because we don't have machines on site. We have to go to the laundromat, and usually have quite a load of wash. We might put it off for a while.
Okay.
Walk the dog. Try to do something entertaining, which for me is mostly being out in nature.
Yeah.
Go for a walk somewhere.
Well, there's like in this vicinity, there's a big Hawk Mountain kind of a reserve or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of public lands.
Yeah.
And they're really nice.
All right, so I was talking with Circa Paleo one time, and I said, well, when do you guys practice? Joshua Amix looks at me and he says, well, pretty much Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, we play so much.
Yeah, it's like every Saturday and every Sunday, but I know that there's also intermittent practices when you pick up a new song.
Yeah.
Somebody new joins the troupe, and you enjoy playing with each other, a Tuesday night or something like that. It's an informal gathering where you just enjoy each other's company.
I've always approached the music we do play in a jazz-like way, taking solos, accompanying other people doing solos, trading licks back and forth like a conversation,
Right.
And so we, there's been I haven't been going to it very much the last couple of years because of my Parkinson's, but there's a ongoing Monday night or whatever night, mostly it's Monday night, and Dick Sheridan, who was a big band and jazz drummer. He's in his 80s now, and he kind of heads the rhythm department there. He's really quite a character. He's not here.
But which place?
Sterling Renaissance Faire in Oswego.
Okay, he's up at Sterling.
Scarborough Fair in Texas, near
Texas.
Waxahachie, Texas.
There's a big fair that is held in Minnesota. There's one in Wisconsin.
At this point,
Ohio.
there's enough people on the circuit.
Yeah.
It would be impossible to go to a Renaissance Fair and not know a lot of people there. We kind of at times look at ourselves as like the soundtrack of the Renaissance Fair, especially in instrumental stuff, but all things. So we're not easily discouraged when the audience doesn't like mushroom out,
Like you just said, you're the soundtrack to the Renaissance Fair. And the fair happens weekend after weekend. This is a very long one. Others are much shorter. But it always seems fresh. And, I come every weekend. I buy a season pass because I just love, like, shedding the worries about the past week and just enjoying the camaraderie, the creativity, the entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, there's so many good things happening here.
That's why we stay out of politics. People need to get away from that stuff.
Oh, good heavens. Yeah, there are things that drain your life and things that replenish your life.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you guys have been doing. There have been some influences on you that you identified in your website that I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about. At the top of the list is Owen Fife.
Yeah.
It's Owen, isn't it?
Owen.
Owen? Okay.
He's originally spelled his name O-W-E-N and Fight, F-I-T-E, which means Fife. But he went to when he became a Ren Fair singer, he went with the name Owen. Some people say Owen, but O-W-A-I-N P-H-Y-F-E.
Right.
Still the same guy, though.
Yeah. Multi-talented, beautiful voice.
He was astounding. I mean, I've never heard another singer like him ever.
Yeah, I've picked up a couple of his recordings with the Renaissance Festival band, the New World Renaissance Festival band, and you're playing on some of his stuff.
Yeah, all the first like 4 or 5.
So he was, from what I can tell, a wandering minstrel, and you guys just crossed paths and immediately found some kind of a simpatico between you.
He was looking for a band. He had this vision. He'd been a singer for a long time. I mean, he'd be the only white face in a church gospel group, and he played with just all kinds of people. And he was totally fearless about approaching people, the famous people. So he'd kind of stalk them and play something for them. And there's so many stories. I don't want to try to tell them because he told them so much better. When he was looking for a band, I had traded cassette tapes back then. We didn't have CDs. With a pub singer. I traded a tape with this guy, and Owen talked to him and said he was looking for a band that was already together that he could tap for the New World Renaissance Band. He had the whole concept in his head. And the guy said, well, you should listen to this. Jim Perkins.
Okay.
Listen to this group called Cantika. And after the Michigan Renaissance Fair, which was his first fair, his home show, that year I looked up and he had followed us to Texas. He was in costume, showed up with his guitar-like instrument that he had back then, and sang for us and said he wanted to record with us. And our cellist Max picked up on it right away. I mean, other people had kind of done this to us too, but as soon as I heard his voice up close, I'd seen him for a few years ago.
Yeah.
And man, we were so lucky to have known him, because he took music that people in the mainstream would not be interested in and altered it a little bit and made it folk music.
And that's what I was just going to say. It sounds like folk music from the 1500s.
Yes, and he had a command of languages. That voice was something, though. There was no vibrato in it, hardly any anyway.
Yeah.
It's a reed-like tone, and you could sing way up high, so clean and crisp.
farararan della guardariera, farararan faran fararera, farararan della guardariera. Farararan faran fararera, farararan della guardariera, farararan faran fararera, farararan della guardariera. Quando yo me vengo de guardo ganado, todo me lo desenchigo y desposado. Ahora si soy con la hija de Nostramo, que este sol de huela ya me la diera. Farararan, faran, fararera, farararan de la guardariera, farararan, faran, fararera, farararan de la guardariera. Allá arriba en Valderoncales tengo yo mi esca y mis pedernales y mi curoncito de ciervos ciervales. Hago yo mi lumbre si yo me lo quiera. Farararan, faran, fararera, farararan de la guardariera, farararan, faran, fararera, farararan de la guardariera. Farararan, faran, fararera, farararan de la guardariera. Viene la cuaresma, yo no como nada, ni como sardina, ni cosa salada. De cuando yo quiero no se hace nada, migas con las 7 hacen merendera. Farararan, faran, fararera, farararan de la guardariera, farararan, faran, fararera, farararan de la guardariera.
That's what Cantika has always done. We don't tell anybody what they have to play. We might give them some suggestions, but
Yeah, I've watched you guys play up at Sterling with Martha and Alex.
Yeah.
That's the foundation for Cantika, but Alex wasn't originally with you. He's a newer player, right?
Yeah, and Max is still with us, but he doesn't really tour with us. Sometimes he'll catch up with us and we'll do a day or a concert here or there. But he does all the work on the recordings and...
You have a new CD coming out shortly, don't you?
Yes, it's kind of a retrospective. I mean, it's stuff that's been remastered and kind of gives a history overview of the band.
All right, because I've set up the recorder and listened to the playing, and it's beautiful. It just, you understand each other's nuances. Martha is able to bring the harp in. Just, it's almost as though it's mixed live.
It is.
Which is, that's a really rare thing.
biggest compliment we give anybody who tries to play with us is that they're a good listener.
Okay.
And if we're listening to each other, I mean, I can look at Alex, and he'll know exactly what I'm thinking and be there without even, I just catch his eye or something. The last couple of years it's been when my hand is so shaky, I want to give him a chance to do another improvisational section, you know, and while I get my stuff together.
Get your hand calmed down and then you can come back in.
Yeah. Kind of good at one hand playing.
Yeah. It's really remarkable to see how skillful you are, and to watch Alex and some of the videos I've shot. I've zoomed in on fingering and just to...
He's really amazing.
And the boy's been at it for how long?
So he's in his 30s now, and I think he's probably maybe 3 years old when his dad is from Russia, from St. Petersburg, Leningrad, and got out in the 70s through Amnesty International. He was playing forbidden music, you know, Renaissance music and stuff that had been preserved in various churches, and did not have the communist rubber stamp on it. I wouldn't want to try to manage Alex because he's totally independent, and he's going to do what he chooses to do, and I respect him for that.
Yeah.
Alex is the dad's name too.
Oh, okay.
They both have the first and middle name in Russia is often the same, so they're both Alexander. And Sasha's a nickname for Alexander.
Okay.
But I think he started, young Alex, we call him. We used to call him Little Alex, but that just stopped working because he's much taller than his dad.
He's big.
Yeah. And we met him when he was like somewhere 8 or 9 years old. And he sat in with us then too on a little tambourine.
Oh my.
Young Alex would be woken by his father often in the early hours of the morning, and sometimes they'd go run up to the Lake Ontario and fish for some breakfast. This is before school, and often they'd play music. And the Alex Sr. is just a couple years younger than me, but he's an older soul, I think. And his favorite person to play with is his son. So
wow.
They do a couple concerts every year together, like Baroque stuff, Renaissance stuff.
That's one of the other characteristics I've seen, you know, for you and so many of the other people. Nobody brags, but my God, you've got history, depth, I mean, an amazing reservoir that you draw on for your inspiration and ideas. And I didn't realize Alex had that depth of experience himself.
He went on, also got a degree in early music performance from Bloomington, Indiana, University there. So he's been well trained, but more importantly, he's a good listener, and he always comes in with the right thing. If he's like thinking, am I going to play melody or what? We'll see what Bob does. He'll play the first note of the melody, and Bob's going to cover that, and I'll go to this other part.
And he slips into another part.
Seamlessly, yeah.
And that's, okay, it's seamless, and it looks like it's thoroughly rehearsed, and it's, you know, just beautifully executed. The recordings that I'm making, I don't have to do any EQ on them. I just record it. And as long as I put the microphone in a central location, the imaging for the sounds comes out, and it just works out beautifully. All right, so Owen was a terrific influence overall, and had a big impact on the whole evolution of the Renaissance Fair.
Yeah, music, as I said, he put the bar higher, raised the bar for Renaissance Fair music. Because before him, we were kind of, lots of us anyway, not all of us, but we're stuck in Celtic Irish session music, which is wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
You know? But it kind of dominated the Renaissance Fair, which is historically laughable, you know. But the audience loves it, so
yeah, right.
It's about the audience,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But, so I tried to introduce some European stuff and did some research.
Yeah, you did a book that actually describes Renaissance music and gives the history of it. It's really
Ren Fair music.
Yeah, it's a fascinating book.
Yeah, I enjoy the Renaissance Fair circuit too. For as long as I can hang on, I'll be there.
Yeah, that's right. You will. one song that comes through that really I think sums it up, and that's "Bring on the Starlight."
Written by a dear friend.
The river of time always flows. It's the nature of things that the final bell rings, and the still of the night always knows. Now the wise men say this only shows that everything comes to a close. But one thing's for certain, the night's just a curtain where the moon of our memory glows. So bring on the starlight, make everything end right. A dream's just a memory that grows. Remember the fair times, the moments we shared when we sent all our cares off to where the cold winds blow. And though we have come to an end, and it's time to say so long, my friends, I hope you can feel that the meaning is real when we promise to meet once again. Be you rich man or poor man, be you fool or sure man, we've gathered our hands, we've made a merry stand. The people, they come and they go. It's the nature of things, I suppose. But one thing's for certain, the night is a curtain where the moon of our memory glows. So bring on the starlight, make everything end right. A dream's just a memory that grows. And the fair time was our time, a dreamy time to share time. Yes, the fair time was a fine time to know. And though we have come to an end, and it's time to say so long, my friends, I hope you can feel that the meaning is real when we promise to meet once again. So bring on the starlight, make everything end right. A dream's just a memory that grows. And fair time was our time, a dream time to share time. Yes, the fair time was a fine time to know.
And I understood he went to the Netherlands. He had Lyme disease that ravaged him.
They went undiagnosed. They didn't have anything like that. The doctors were baffled, and they treated him like he was, he had some sort of neural damage, but they treated him like he was depressed or schizoid or whatever. I mean,
What happened with Mr. Spurlock?
I haven't heard from him recently. The people that were in the very first Renaissance band I played with had a gig over in the Netherlands, and we were going to go see him, but when they called his wife. He was just not well enough to receive visitors. So. I think he's still with us. And I've got somewhere, I don't have it with me on the road, but really great recordings of his, the music he was playing when he first showed up in Milwaukee. I met him in a coffee house.
Is he another one of these just showed up and...
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, he came for several years in a row. He was an expatriate during the Vietnam War. And when he went to Holland, he had also a survivor of some very bad foster parenting. And so that's why he took another name. He didn't want to use his given name. So he became Jerry Spurlock. And he wrote all these beautiful songs. He had like a little zither, but not a traditional zither. It was like a little lap harp. There were no frets on it. And he played with his fingernails and sing quietly. He was a great player. He was the only American who had a street license to play on the streets of Amsterdam. He had like a little place. In the winter, there was like a heat grill or something that would vent out near where he would play. And so he'd be out there all the time.
Well, the lyrics to that song really do sum up the whole Renaissance experience as far as I can tell. All right, so you had married a lady named Leslie, right?
Mm-hmm. Leslie Tabor.
Tabor, and she's still your wife.
Yeah.
And you're still, do you have kids?
No, I have a dog.
A dog. What's the dog's name?
Pepper.
Pepper.
We've had 3 dogs, and Pepper's the peppiest one. Our last dog got us in a lot of trouble. She was a fear biter. We got her from a vet when she was just over 2 months old, and she had a scar on her forehead and one on her shoulder where she'd been picked up with something with big teeth, and so she really hated it when people would reach down at her.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Which people do to dogs all the time.
Yeah, sure. Like,
and she was liable. If she felt confined, she would bite. So we'd warn people, and all the people said, "Oh no, dogs always love me," you know.
Yeah, sure.
Those are the ones she went for. And we had a choice to have her put to death or get her a shock collar to train her. And so we got the collar. And we didn't want to use it for 3 months. Leslie tried it on herself. Said, "Well, it's not that bad, I guess." And it had variable settings, and she showed us what was too high because I guess I deserve that, you know. Well, I didn't deserve this. She does. So we kind of controlled her through that. But towards the end, she got old. Her vision was failing. Her sense of smell, she couldn't hear. Things would come up behind her, like a car on the road, and she'd jump because she didn't hear it until it got really close to her. Yeah. And she started barking at the moon. Even during the day, she'd go out and look up at the sky, and just in case it was up there, you know.
Yeah. You and Jim Hancock did a song called "This Is the Chorus."
Oh yeah.
This is a song with a chorus.
In the kind of fa-la-la vein. But it doesn't matter what you sing.
You'll find out when you hear the rest of the words of the song. Fa-la-la, fa-la-la-la-la, fa-la-la-la-la, fa-la-la-la-la. This is the chorus of the song. This is the chorus you're hearing now. Fa la 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 la. Fa la 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 la. The man who wrote this song was deaf. He couldn't hear a note. This is the verse. I thought it was the chorus. This is the verse. This is the verse. But he knew all the rules, he did, and that is why he wrote the verse. The man who wrote the lyrics was as crazy as a loon. So there's nothing to this song but the tune. This is the chorus of the song. This is the chorus you're hearing now. You make up the words as you go along, 'cause no one listens to the lyrics anyhow. Tra-la-la, la-la-la-la, dum-dee-dum, dum-dum-dum. If you want to, you can whistle or hum. When you're singing this song to your friends, just remember this is where the chorus ends. Everybody! Fa-la-la-la, fa-la-la-la-la, fa-la-la-la-la,
This song was written note by note, but there's nothing to show where each bit fits, where each bit fits. But if you sing a word, you're every note, you're bound to know which fits with which fits with which. Well, here and there, the writer left the place to take a breath, so the singer wouldn't choke to death. This is the chorus once again. Tra-la-la-la-la-la with sealing wax. A rooster's different than a hen. Well, have you ever sharpened pencils with an axe? Try a file. Had a sweetie, but she wouldn't marry me. Here's the part that everybody recommends. That's because it comes where the chorus ends. That's because it comes where the chorus ends.
I sort of collect old 78 RPM records, and I like novelty bands. They kind of push the envelope, you know.
Yeah.
There was a
Moondog.
group called the Hoosier Hot Shots,
You mentioned that one.
and I got one record of theirs. I'd never heard of them, but they played so well together. There was a clarinet player, occasional other single reed instruments, English guy who played bass with them, and rhythm guitar, and then Hezekiah. There's a phrase that became iconic, "Are you ready, Hezi?" And his main instrument was slide whistle. So with the clarinet, the first time I heard it, what is that? You know, it was really good. It sounded really good, but it was kind of a little, you know, slurring into pitches and so forth.
Okay.
I finally went, that's got to be a slide whistle. And then I found out all kinds of stuff about them, but the A side was Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Maybe that was the B side. And the song, This Is the Chorus of the Song, was on there. And that's where we learned it.
Ah.
They, before there was Grand Ole Opry, WLS radio in Chicago would boost its signal at night, and Saturday night was Barn Dance, the Barn Dance show, and with the Hoosier Hot Shots and all kind of novelty players, and they were great. They were really, really something.
Well, the version of Nero's expedition up the Nile that's on the latest Burley Minstrel CD, I've checked around. That is without a doubt the best recording of that song that has ever been made.
I wanted to record that for a long time.
Oh, good heavens. I listened to that. I got it up at Sterling and I played it back on the way home. I must have listened to it, 100 times by now. It's just such a terrific round.
It really is, yeah. The guy that wrote that was blind.
Yeah.
And was a street musician.
Yeah, he dressed like a Viking up in New York City all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. And he had some influence on some of the jazz players. We know this older guy who was assigned to lead him around on the day of a concert because he was kind of scattered, you know. You had to make him concentrate. But he also wrote some bizarre poetry, and I found some when I was researching something totally different. About, you know, of all places, like the Spanish language library in Austin, Texas, attached to the university there. And all of a sudden there's a moondog. It was mimeographed with a staple holding it together. And I copied it, but I have been unable to locate somewhere among many papers that I have. But his poetry they're like little Zen koans. They make no sense, and the more you try to make sense out of them, the more sense they don't make. But they're brilliant.
Yeah, that's the hard part, finding an outlet for your brilliance. I think that's what frustrates so many musicians, so many other creative people. They do such amazing things, but they can't find an outlet for it.
Yeah, we really lucked out.
Well, it seems like that the whole Renaissance group, if you're talented, if you're willing to just do it, enjoy it, and willing to learn from others and listen to others, this is a place where you can become heard, recognized, and appreciated.
It's really nice to see younger musicians showing up and making their own way through.
A couple of weeks ago, there was a group of 4 kids. They called themselves the Sibling Rivalry Band. Their parents were Renaissance Faire romance, and they had kids, and now the kids are starting on the circuit themselves. Pretty good.
They are, yeah.
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 So I watched Jim in the audience several times, coming to watch these little kids do their act, and you could tell that there's some affinity there for the young ones coming up.
Yep. We always all of us try to encourage, because we got our encouragement here too.
Yeah.
From crafters, from other musicians.
Yeah.
Certainly not through high school. I mean.
Yeah, who gets encouragement in high school, really?
I don't know, but they should.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and that's where sometimes the church groups become important.
Yeah.
Because they're accepting and appreciative. And but everyone I've ever met who's got a real strong creative drive experiences frustration, ridicule, all the other crap that you have to just go through. You go through that, and then there's an opportunity to play with people who share your interests in a particular genre, and yeah, you thrive with each other. I really do want to put together a documentary that reflects...
It's not a perfect world, but it is a caring world.
In fact, there's an icon cartoon up on the internet now, and it's this little character who's been hurt, been made fun of, been bullied, whatever, and then there's Renaissance Faire that says, "Hey, come here, let's enjoy our time together." It's really a wonderful sentiment.
It is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions.